as mentioned before, what catalyzed our exchange today was this recognition that there's gossip happening, rumors happening among body talkers. So it's an expression of insecurity and also an expression of the wounded healer. So wherever there's a wound, we all have our wounds. Yes, so that's what we were talking about just now in the imagery of Chiron. Upper bodies the male, the human, lower bodies the animal, and how to live within community and relationship and society, we need to some degree to suppress our instinctual, our more primal. And how, as we do that, to some degree, having to repress some of our more spontaneous ways of self-expression that wouldn't necessarily be appropriate in a certain society, naturally that's going to build up an energy, and it can be a contraction and an energy of anger. And we feel that as human beings, because we're torn between, I just want to be myself, and the need to conform to a degree. Yes, so we have to walk that fine line, and when we're walking it unconsciously, rumors is an example of that insecurity, that anger being projected out there. And so gossip is really, to me, it's that insecurity, that anger looking for a scapegoat. The problem is out there. So not to criticize gossip, because I see, individuation coming into consciousness happens through conflict. That's the whole premise of breakthrough, that the most direct path to healing is through conflict, not around it. But the overly conforming, overly self-modifying human being is, I've lost my track now. The overly conforming human being becomes unaware of what they're doing to themselves, yes? And so this is what we talk about as the process of individuation, becoming conscious of this split and how we are dealing with it well and not dealing with it. And what we do to just distance ourselves totally from the instinctual. Yes. And as James Hollis, my favorite Jungian author, says, paraphrase, what distances us from our nature betrays us. Yes. So there's, when we do something like gossip or blame, or, anytime you make me feel, and we put the responsibility out there, it's our way of just avoiding feeling the discomfort of that split. Yes. Therefore, not holding it consciously. So coming into consciousness in BodyTalk is addressed as individuation. Yes.
Yeah, and as you were speaking, what so many things come to mind, of course, as always. My mind just explodes into all of these different tangents and associations between breakthrough and BodyTalk. I mean, the concept of individuation is addressed most obviously in the module 3, Principles of Consciousness class, when we talk about anchoring to the individuation process and general consciousness, when we talk about individuation and these different aspects like self-esteem and perception and unburdening and open-mindedness and this concept of synthesis. But as you were speaking just now of individuation and what how you were talking about all those other things. Interestingly, the class that kept coming to mind for me was Module 6, Macrocosmic Body Mind. And one of the many topics we cover in that class is life cycles. And one of the subcategories of that are the astrological houses, right? The 12 houses of the zodiac, and which really describes the progression of the human experience of the cycle of life, and at least the way we talk about it in BodyTalk, of course, they're all, every astrologer is going to have their own interpretations and understandings. But, in the 12th house, when we talk about the 12th house of the zodiac, some of the concepts that are associated with that are individuation, like the end of a cycle, right? Death and the destruction of masks. But another aspect of the 12th house is it's the mysterious, it's the unknown, it's the unconscious. So I find it really interesting, as you were speaking, this idea and imagery coming to mind again of paradox, right? How this coming into consciousness, that part of that is going unconscious, right? In this and being aware of the unconscious. So it's always this up and down process. You go unconscious, but then it's like a waking up as well, becoming conscious, going unconscious, becoming conscious. And that back and forth that always happens of, oh, I thought I was aware, I thought I knew, I thought I understood something, and going through life at that from that particular place. I thought I knew what was happening, I thought was real, making these assumptions, but not realizing that the assumptions are not true. The assumptions are not true. And then something happens to wake us up like, oh, I thought I was awake. I thought I knew what was real. I thought I knew what was true, but it turns out it's not true. And that happens through questioning, through writing emails, getting clarification about, is this really happening? Is this not happening? Um, and then, that transition from the 12th house into the first house, right? It is the matrix, right? Being born again, right? First house, a rebirth, an emergence from the womb. Like, oh, this is this is the reality. This is what's really happening. And then living life from this new place, right? This like a shedding, right? It's like the amniotic sac, right? It's like shedding that exterior, shedding that comfort zone of the womb of the mother, the matrix mother, right? And now coming into my own and expressing that first house personality, physical body. Oh, this is what comes naturally to me. And then going through life, continuing until reaching, going through the different trials and tribulations of life, experiencing conflicts, and along the way, waking up again and again through conflict. Like, oh, I thought I knew what was real. I thought this was true, but it turns out that it's not. There's a movie, I don't know if you saw, Esther, I'm sure some people here seen it, the movie Inception with Leonardo DiCaprio. and this idea of dreams, right? And so it's like they do this induced dream state, and then in that dream state they induce another dream, and then it's a dream within a dream within a dream within a dream. And every time they wake up from a dream, they believe the dream, the dream that they woke up from, they believe that the reality that they're now awake to is the reality, but they don't really know until something happens that says, no, you're still asleep. And then they have to go through this process and they wake up again and say, oh, okay, I'm awake. And then something happens, triggers them, right? They set in place a trigger to wake them up and say, no, you're still asleep. And then at the end of the movie, spoiler alert for those of you who haven't seen it, right? They kind of left wondering, are they awake now or are they still asleep?
Oh, so it's that parable, really, of am I a butterfly dreaming? Yes.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Wonderful. Ah.
Yeah, it's individuation, this concept of individuation and going hand in hand with the shadow work, right? Weaves its way throughout all of the body talk classes, beginning from fundamentals. Beginning from fundamentals. I mean, we talk about the heart, right? And being the seat of I am. And body talk helping to facilitate the awareness of that place within the clients, but also for those practitioners wanting and willing and to do the work and to really understanding that the process of facilitating the body talk session. It's always a dynamic. It's always an interplay between practitioner and client. The practitioner's own baggage, practitioner's own issues are inevitably going to impact the session, the client practitioner dynamic, and the results that someone gets. So anyway, so this idea of individuation in the shadow, weaving its way through all of the body talk classes.
And
So
that it's a never-ending process. And that, I think, for the overly conformed human being, yes, who's really coping very well in society and whose instinctual is very much being repressed, will live from a place of, looking for light at the end of a tunnel, the end of a process. So when we speak of individuation, I think so often it's misunderstood that it's something that, you tap yourself out long enough and you're going to individuate. But it's a lifelong process, as you say. So it's just sinking deeper, sinking deeper, sinking deeper. And it is very much shadow work. So you cannot, individuation, that process absolutely involves doing shadow work. And I think that on some level, though, a lot of people who attack breakthrough, quite honestly, or have animosity to it, have never actually asked me what is it, or don't know any, when you talk a little bit to them, don't know what it is. But I think maybe on some level, they sense that it's shadow work.